let the past control your future, you're doing the wrong thing. If you let the past control your future, you're making a big mistake. Because nothing, and certainly Abraham's life is proof of this, nothing about Abraham's past controlled his future. The only thing that controlled his future was obedience to God and the grace and mercy of God. That was what Abraham needed. If you are building on your past, you're building on a shaky foundation, because as rotten as your past was, why would you want to build on that foundation? God says, put your past behind you and move ahead. If you believe in your past, then you're going to have trouble believing in your future. If you put the past behind you, then you will be able to embrace the future. An altar says, I'm putting the past behind me and I'm moving on. And there are 6 things that happen when you meet God at the altar. I call them the ABCs of the altar. 6 things that happen. A, you anticipate the full approval of God at the altar. Anticipate the full approval of God. B, it's the belief in the full blessing of God. God, I know that you really do want to bless me. Your word says so. C, there's a confession of the full control of God. God, I give myself completely to you, to your control. You are the boss. I am completely leaning on you and leaving it in your hands. D, there is the dependence on the full direction of God. And I don't know where I'm going. Abraham was in a land and he had no clue where he was supposed to go. What do I do now? I'm here in this promised land, this land that you said I'm supposed to have. Now what do I do? I just don't know what to do, God. I mean, think about it. Abraham's there in this promised land. He's got a wife who's barren, and this is the land I'm going to give to your offspring. Abraham's going to go, wow, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And not only that, but what do I do now, God? What do I do now? Then there's E, the experience of the full experience, or the encounter of the full experience of God. Encounter the full experience of God. Get to know God at the altar. When you're at the altar, that's the place where you discover the very person of God himself. And then F, focus on the full friendship of God. God really does love you. He's your father, but he's also your friend. So an altar always represents where you were when you encountered God, but it also represents where you are when you take the next step of your journey. And so that brings us to this last point that I want to make, that it's time to choose. It's time to choose. I want you to see something that happens. In Genesis chapter 12, verse 8, it says, from there, he went toward the hills east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord, and he called on the name of the Lord. Now look at this little map here. This is where Abraham is. He has moved right from this area, he has moved this way, right along here. And now as he moves across, there is Ai, and right there is Bethel. All right. Was that you? I know who it is now, see? I know. Oh. All right, so there's Bethel and Ai. Now those 2 little towns are only separated by 2 or 3 miles. They're very, very close to each other. I mean, they're just, it's just, you know, that's basically a 45-minute walk from one town to the other. But here's something that you need to understand about why these 2 little towns are so important and what happens here with Abraham. You see, the word Ai literally means trash dump. It was a junk heap. That's really what the word means, a junk heap or a trash dump. It is a despicable, trashy dump heap. And by the way, years later, after what Israel, if you'll kind of jump ahead, is taken captive, goes to Egypt. They're set free from Egypt. They wander in the desert 40 years. They come back right around through this area. The journey that they take comes right around like this. And they come back, and right there is Jericho. And remember the Battle of Jericho? And they were so victorious, they marched around Jericho. And the walls of Jericho come falling down, and there's great victory. It's their first battle that they have to face. And they fight, and they win. And they go, wow, we're doing okay. We really got it together. And they go over to AIE, which is a trash dump. It's a horrible place, despicable people, and they routed them. IE routed the Israelites. They were just nasty people. That's IE. It's just the trash dump. On the other hand, Bethel, a 45-minute walk. Bethel, the word Bethel means house of God, or really what it represents is the presence of God.